All right, guys, I'm here with Mahmoud Nasser, or NASCAR, as he goes by. We're in Austin right now. We just got done with the lock-in for the week. Mahmoud and I have done a few interviews like this together, but just wanted to get on and talk. How long have you been in the industry now total?
I just hit my 3-year mark.
Hit 3 years. Cool. I just hit 7 years. You see, today when we're recording this is November 15th. So yeah, like right at 7 years. I started in November of 2017. So 7 years. And it was we were on a training call this morning, and someone asked, like, how do you mentor older agents? And they were like, how old is the guy? Like 33. I'm like, holy crap, I'm getting close. I'm 29. And I remember, like, we were all like baby. Like, you started when you were 21.
Yeah.
I started when I was 22, and then it's been 3 years for you, 7 years for me. But I think, like, looking back, it seems like it's happened so fast, right? So 3 years in, what do you think the biggest difference now, like, that you see now with where your business is, the way you look at yourself is, like, what's changed the most for you the last 3 years since you started, in the insurance industry, but being an entrepreneur in general?
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. First of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity, because none of us would be here without you and your mentorship. And I think before business, like, I was developed as a person, like a businessman overall. Like, before getting into the industry, like, I wouldn't say I was like a full-on introvert, but like I couldn't just go up there and say like something random to somebody, just go up to them. And the way I carry myself now too is like my time is valuable, and I have to respect that. I have to learn that others need to respect that as well.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing of it all is like it truly showed me like that with my mindset, or anyone's mindset, like anything is possible, no matter the age. Like, even though when I first got into the industry, I was scared because I was like 21. I was like, my clients are going to be 3 times my age. Like, why would they listen to me? Like, you know what I mean? And I had those fears and thoughts in my head, but that was just stuff I was telling myself.
Yeah. And I think, like, when you started, you always have sold a lot. And in our business, if you work hard and are willing to invest in leads and, like, can read a script, you can sell a lot, right?
Yeah.
And then recently, your team just hit 1.2 million was that the final number? Was 1.2 million last month?
1.25.
But that was the first month over a million, right?
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Congrats. I remember when we first hit that, it's like a big weight lift on your shoulders. You're like, okay, cool. Like, we got that first, like, big milestone out of the way, which is cool. So that's amazing. But I think for building a business, like, you have to start being able to operate as a business person. And it always seemed to me like you were a super talented, nice, like, good-hearted person, but, like, you kind of let people walk all over you sometimes. And you were sort of passive and, like, cared a lot, I think, what the people thought about you. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, 100%.
What do you think changed in the last, like, 2 years? Like you said, you started valuing your time more, but, like, what you carry yourself differently now. You don't let people F with you. Like, you're like a grown ass man now.
Yeah.
Like, what are some changes you think you had to make before, like, when you were, like, nice young passive guy, sold a lot, but, like, not very serious a lot of the time, or, like, serious but, like, kind of joking around, and, like, didn't take the building side very serious. Now you're, like, laser focused, and if people aren't doing the right things, like, you cut them out. You're willing to have tough conversations with people. You don't care what people think about you anymore. Like, how did you shift your mindset, and when did that start to change, do you think?
Dude, I think it just kind of clicked one day for me. Like,
Yeah.
I just woke up one day and it really hit me, like, what we do, like, it really is the greatest opportunity out there. And I think, like, as I learned, like, bringing on agents, like, as their mentor, like, I have to put them in the right position, but, like, you have to set the standards there,
Yeah.
And I think early on, I truly was, I guess, like you said, like, scared what people thought, like, they might get mad at me or they might hate me, whatever. But, like, again, like, no matter in anything out there, whatever anyone has to say or do anything, whatever they think, at the end of the day, like, they're not putting food on the plate, like, they're not putting money in my pockets. They're, if they're essentially not helping you grow, they're not really helping you at the end of the day. And once I realized that, it was just like the only person in my way stopping me was me.
Yeah.
And I think I just really had to lock in myself and realize, like, how valuable I am myself.
Yeah. When did you start to, like, realize that your time was valuable and you had a valuable skill set, so you didn't waste it on people that weren't appreciative of that? Because I think that's the realization everyone has to come to. Like, you're not being arrogant, but, like, you have a skill set that can make you $500,000 a year selling insurance. That's valuable. And you started acting that way. Like, did you just realize that one day, or just slowly kind of got into your head like I should carry myself this way because my skill set is valuable?
Yeah, dude, I had a agent come along and he was doing great at first, and then like he just kind of like slowed down, and like he knew what he had to do, but like I realized like I couldn't want it more for someone than they would want it themselves, and like I caught myself getting like frustrated and mad, like, dude, why aren't you selling 30 policies a month? Like, why aren't you doing 10 a month? Mm-hmm. And like I've come to realize like that person just truly didn't want that, you know, like I try to force something on someone that they didn't want. So like I really just had to find the people that, like you said, they wanted the opportunity, they wanted to succeed, they were hungry. And if you find the right person, you give them the task, like how to get to $500,000, they want $500,000, they're going to do whatever the hell it takes to do it.
Right.
And they'll respect your time and they'll value it, you know? And I think that's what it realized is like, I can't want it more for these people than they want it for themselves. And I was always heard, like I've heard you say it a million times, like average commission's $1,000. Like when we're working, like we look at ourselves as $1,000 an hour worker.
Yeah.
Why the hell am I going to spend an hour like breaking something down to someone that's going to forget it in the next 10 minutes?
Right.
Not even care. Or won't even show up for themselves at 9, 10 a.m., you know? My little sisters wake up earlier than that at 7 a.m., you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like it has to be a mindset shift where you like you're not saying something to hurt someone. It's like you're saying something because not saying it hurts them, right? Like if someone's not doing the right things, and it could be like in life or in business, but like in business they're not investing the right amount, they're not selling the right amount, like they're not making any money. Like them being around doesn't hurt you as the upline. Like you'll still make money when they sell a little bit, right? You still make some overrides, like whatever, life is good. But it hurts them because they're barely making enough money to put the food on the table. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing where it's like if you see one of your friends like drinking every night and being self-destructive, like not telling them you're the asshole, right? Yeah. Not like if you tell him, he might be mad, but you're telling him because you care about them. And same thing in business. Like I always looked at it like that. I'm like, well, they may be mad at me in the moment, but if I don't tell them, I'm letting them to keep hurting themselves. So if they're mad at me, maybe at least they'll change, you know? And you have to get good at having those challenging conversations. How do you have those difficult conversations with agents where they're messing up or doing things that would hurt themselves or, you know, not living up to the potential or what they want to do with the business? Like, how do you have those conversations with them in a way that's constructive, not where you're like, you're an idiot, like tearing them down?
Yeah. Dude, I think I learned it like great from you, Sean, Mike, John Wetmore. You guys do a really good job of it where it's just like finding the why with a client or a recruit. Yeah. It's like, well, why do you think that happened? Like, well, if you're not hitting, you know, your goals, like, why is that? Like, do you think you're working enough? Are you putting in the hours? Like, how much dollars do you make a day? Or what time do you go in every day? And just start asking them questions. And then, like, next thing you know, they've answered it themselves. And, like, you don't have to tell them they're an idiot. Like, they feel like an idiot. The blueprint's in front of them. They're just not following it.
Right.
And they try to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, and getting people to make a decision because it's something they want to do. And that's what people like. If you're in a business with someone and you have an upline downline scenario, and I learned this because I screwed up so many times. If I go to you and go, you need to sell 30 grand a month, like you're like, that guy wants me to sell more so he can make a bigger override, right? But if I go like, hey man, like how much do you want to sell a month? Like what do you need to pay all your bills and do whatever you want to do? You know, put money away for your kids, college, you know, save up, whatever you want to do in life. How much do you have to sell every month to put that amount of money away? Or what amount of money do you need? Then, okay, you need 15 grand a month. Okay, so you have to sell 30 to minimally account for, you know, expenses, chargebacks, whatever. Like worst case scenario, net 15 if you sell 30. Mm-hmm. Even if you're 80% comp, you'll net 15. But I'm doing it based on your goal, right? And the reason you want to do it. And I'm like, then take this, and this step, buy this many leads, dial from these hours, do this and this to hit your goal, right?
Yeah.
Then you're like, oh, like he's guiding me to hit my goal. If I'm just telling you need to sell this much, then you're like people look at you sideways, like, why does he want me to do that? It benefits him, not me, right? Yeah. And I think it's an important distinction when you're dealing with people to make sure they understand your motivation behind it. And it's to help them, not to self-serve yourself to make a bigger override. Like I want to make an override, but I care more about the person doing well. And if I make money as a byproduct, all good, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Like you said, the perfect question, like, Musty, same thing. Like he told me when he got started, like, dude, I want $100,000 saved up by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And like whenever I see him lacking off or goofing off or just not like dialed in, I'm like, hey, is that gonna get you your 100,000?
Yeah.
And then he's just like, no, and he'll lock back in. And it's just like, again, if I didn't care about him, like I wouldn't care. You know, he's gonna keep doing what he's doing. But if he wants to go to the next level, like you have to, like you said, ask the right questions to guide him.
Yeah. And to your point too, it's like, I think sometimes people's tendency is if someone says, I want to put $100,000 away and they have $2,000 in the bank, like 100,000 seems like a lot of money. Once you have a few 100,000 or a few million or whatever in the bank, like 100,000 doesn't seem like much. But I think sometimes our tendency is to go like, man, that guy's talented. He should think bigger. And you're like, why don't you want to have $1 million?
Yeah.
But I learned too on that, like, just help people get to the 100,000 and their vision will spread from there. Mm-hmm. Like my first month in the business in 2017, I was in Charleston, South Carolina. I was like, if I could net $6,000, I'll be able to pay for our rent. I'll be able to pay off some of the credit card debt I have. And, you know, I'll be able to like give this another month run, right? Mm-hmm. Like $6,000 a month. I never had to do, our agency did $6.7 million last month. Like that was never the goal. Yeah. But the goal stretched as I got around people who had bigger businesses and bigger ambitions, and I learned things and I started feeling confident in myself. So what was your goal when you started, and like what has that evolved into, and what are your goals now?
Yeah. I think personal goals, like I always knew I wanted to sell at a high level. Like I truly enjoy it. You know, I don't look at it as working. And building a business, like I've always wanted to build a big business. Like the goal was always like, we got to get the agent to $1 million issue paid, you know, with the guys. And it's like, we passed over $1 million. It's like, it doesn't stop. It's like, all right, how soon can we get to 2 million? Mm-hmm. And then now we're just doing things and accelerating that process. It's like, all right, we got our starting 5. Now it's time to bring the next starting 5 or put our next 30 guys through the Diamond Club and get them geared up.
Yeah.
And I think it just like, as we learn the business, it's like, you know, Wiley said this the other day, it took him 5 years to get to where he's at, right? Mm-hmm. It took me 3 years to get to where I'm at. It took Ronnie just about a year to do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And now we got guys able to do it in 6 months in a time span. And it's because, like, what we've done, like, you've seen the whole transition in regarding, like, the leads. Like, you can probably do a whole episode on the different lead types we used to have back in the day and paying $30 a lead, $50, $80 a lead.
Yeah.
We went through that to where our guys don't have to.
Right.
And we got the system in place now, and it's like, it's much more scalable. It's a whole lot more profitable, and it's much more duplicatable.
Yeah.
And it just makes the process a lot easier.
What was, when you were brand new, like what was did you plan on doing this forever? Did you have a certain monetary goal in the beginning? Like what was your goal like when you first started?
Dude, I just knew I wanted to make money.
Yeah.
Like I saw 7,000 that first month in profit, and I was like, holy shit. Like I never had this much money in the account. Like what's next? And then, dude, it was just like a increase from there. And it was like, we learned a lot of things. Like my first year in business, I sold $508,000, but I probably kept maybe closer to like $100,000 of that.
Yeah. Spent a lot of money, had some chargebacks, like just had to figure out the business, right?
Traveling. And again, I was spending much more on leads and figuring things out.
Yeah.
The second year I wrote just about the same amount, and I was able to keep closer to $250,000 of that.
Yeah.
And same thing, like this third year going on, I'm going to still write the same 500,000 and I'm going to be a lot more profitable.
Yeah.
Just because we got the systems dialed in, we got the expenses down, and it's the blueprint for the agents, literally.
Yeah. And I think that's sometimes people when they're new, like want to focus so much on profit. And I've always looked at it like, I'm like, that your experience is worth so much more than the money, I think. Like, I'm like, if you can learn how to do something, then you can do it again next time and do it better, right? Mm-hmm. So like you said, like you're like, I wrote 500,000, you probably grossed 350 and maybe you spent 250 on leads, but you netted $100,000. But you also learned an invaluable skill set, which is how to sell at a really high level. And it's a transferable skill set. You can teach other people how to do that. And I think a lot of times people are so worried about like being profitable day one. I was reading, I'm reading a book right now. It's called The Founders. It's about Elon Musk, Peter, all the guys that founded PayPal. Mm-hmm. Which I don't know. Do you know Elon Musk founded PayPal with some buddies?
I knew he had something to do with it.
Yeah. So it was funny. And part of that, he was like, we were losing so much money one year that we would have lost less money if we went up on the rooftop with buckets of $100 bills and threw it off the side. But like he understood like we're on this building phase and then we'll hit profit at some point, right? And in our business, you can be profitable, but you're not gonna net 80% of you're not gonna keep 80% of your gross. Maybe it's 30%, 40%, but you're still learning the business. And I think people with a business mindset understand that. Yeah. The other thing I learned from that book that was interesting is like everyone said that he was an asshole and like hard to work with. But let me ask if you would know the answer to this. Why do you think people wanted to work with him when he was founding that company? There was a reason that people believed in him more than the other people that were trying to build a similar sort of service. Do you have any idea, any guess why?
Probably by the way he worked towards it.
He worked really hard, but he was still. That was like the second thing, but there was something else on there why people liked him a lot.
His belief in them.
It was his belief in himself and his business, because he exited one company before that for like, I think they said it was like $20 million, and he took like 19 million of that and put it into PayPal.
Yeah.
So he put all of his money into that. And so when people were like, when he was recruiting people, they'd be like, "Well, do you think it's going to work?" He's like, "Yeah, I put all my money in it." And they were like, "Oh, damn. Like, this guy's like, he's all in,
Yeah.
you know, I'm going to work with him." I think it'd be the same in our business, right? It's like, your guys will follow you if they're like, he's all in. Like, he believes it. It gives them a lot more belief than if you're just telling people to do something. Like, you still sell some. It's like, if you're just telling people to do it, they may or may not do it. But if they see you actively doing it too, they're like, "Well, my guy's in the trenches with me, proving it with me, buying the same leads, doing the same thing." It's sort of the same idea where people followed him because he put all his chips, you know, on the table and was like, "This is going to work or not," right?
Yeah. And yeah, dude. And then like, again, when we're all focused on the same goal and the same mission,
Yeah.
calling the same type of leads, like it's only going to make the trainings easier. It's only going to be able to help us grow quicker.
Yeah.
Because again, like what I've started to realize, like, if, I don't know, you probably saw it, is like, as you're growing, like, it just starts kind of just growing by itself now, because you develop managers.
Yeah.
And it's like a good problem to have, where you're like not knowing everyone's name, like, that's coming in brand new. But like, that just goes to show, like, it's proof in the pudding. Like, it's going to keep on growing regardless, especially in this industry where we're only going to keep finding ways, like, how to get better, how
Yeah.
to be more profitable, and make it easier for our agents.
Right. Because like you mentioned leads, like, you have the system down right now, and a lot of it's leads based on Facebook. Like, if you fast forward 3 years, I don't know how leads will be generated, but if I had to guess, it'll probably be somehow related to AI. It probably will not be Facebook advertising the same way it is now. Like, that will evolve. I think that's what we've done a good job of, is like, as things have changed in the industry, we've kept up as they've changed. You know, we've kept evolving with it. Because there's companies out there that still do all mailers and like mortgage protection. Like, if you did mailers and mortgage protection the last 3 years, refinances went to 0%. Mortgage rates went way up. The amount of home buyers cut in half. It's like, so if refis went to 0 and house purchases went in half, you were at 25% of the available market that you had the year before. You're screwed. Plus, inflation, postage went up. Leads are $85 a pop now for mailers. Like, you have no shot if you don't keep evolving. So, I want to ask you that too. So, like, one thing that's hard is when something's working really well, then you have to change. Like, it's hard to change because you're like, "Well, I'm making money doing this. Like, why would I want to make a change?" Right? So if someone's watching this, they're making money, they're like, "Oh, it's, you know, do I want to make that change?" Or if someone's doing something in the industry and they're like, "Well, I'm selling, like you, I'm selling 500 grand a year, making 100, not a bad deal," you know, but you shifted and transitioned doing virtual. Like, what's the mindset behind being willing to change, even if something's working, or being willing to try out new things to see if it makes sense for your team?
Yeah. So, dude, like, I love the field. Like, it's funny you say that, because like, going into telesales, like,
I love the field too.
I hated the thought of it.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, dude, I can't do it. Like, they're going to object me and it's not going to work. But one day, like, I truly had to put my pride to the side. Like, I had Ronnie telling me, like, dude, the field is not duplicatable. I'm driving an hour, 2 hours between houses. Like, there's no way in hell I can do this work in my other job, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, shit, like, some guys were starting to do it. So, like, I just had to put my pride to the side and just do it.
Yeah.
And like, any change is gonna be uncomfortable. Like, it did suck that first week dialing at home in the office desk, because like, I was used to driving around, being on the phone talking and seeing people in person, and I didn't know how it would be over the phone. And like, we would have never saw how it was if I never took that leap of faith and tried it. And dude, I'm glad, because I got my teeth kicked in the first day. And then the second day, I sold like 7 families over the phone. And I was like, dude, I'm never driving to another
I remember
house.
that. Yeah, you're like, "I'm done with that. I ain't going back to that."
I dropped all mail leads that week.
Yeah.
But I think, like, again, like, for anything in life, like, change, it is uncomfortable. But you have to get comfortable getting uncomfortable to grow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one thing I noticed is if you feel uncomfortable, like, I get kind of scared now when things are like quiet and like not chaotic, because I'm like, dude, ain't no growth happening here. Like, this feels too safe, you know? And I think, like, if that's like anything else, like, even if you're like, take working out, if you're working out and you've done the same weight forever and it gets easy all of a sudden, it's like, you're not progressing anymore. Like, you're just plateaued. I think in business, same thing. It's like, and take our business. If in our business, anywhere from 10 to 20% of the business falls off for the good agents, right? Well, shit, if you don't grow 10 to 20% year over year, then you're essentially breaking even because you're paying the back end chargebacks that are falling off, right? So you got to be growing 30, 40% every year to be out in front of the chargebacks and ahead of the chargebacks even.
Yeah.
So it's like people say grow or die, like it is a grow or die business. You know, if you keep growing though, you'll never have any issues.
Yeah.
So you stop growing, then it catches up to you, you know?
Yeah.
What are a few of the biggest things like biggest sales tips you give people for, we get it. Like you have to work hard. You work 60, 80 hours a week when you're new. You have to have discipline. You have to spend money on leads, probably build up to where you're spending 1,500 to $2,000. But like, what are a few things you think allow you to close at a clip where you sell 50 grand a month? Like, what are a few of the things you do on the phone, tonality wise, script wise, objection overcoming wise, like pure sales stuff that you think set you apart from the average producer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we do is I do a really good job of setting the structure. Like, I hear a lot of newer agents when they come in, like they beat the bush. Like they're scared to tell them like it's life insurance or it's to cover your burial. So I do that really early on when I verify that the first 90 seconds is the most important. Like they got to know you're a professional. They have to know, they send in the request and you have to get the why all within like a minute and keep them on the phone. If you can pass that part, like, you're good to go.
Yeah.
So I would say keep it super monotone because half the people we're calling are, the age of our parents, grandparents, like they don't want to be sold at the end of the day. They want to be helped. And when I get on
Because they're
the
used to
phone,
the old school car sales guy, like, hey, Miss Mary, why don't you come on down? And they're like, oh, click.
yeah, exactly. Hey, how are you doing today? And they're
Yeah.
super excited, or they sound scared on the phone, and like they can sense that,
Yeah.
But if you sound calm, confident, like you're truly just doing your job there to help them, that's what you're doing. Like, there's nothing weird about that. And I think just asking those direct questions, for example, like for final expense, hey Zach, was your main concern like most families just wanting to make sure that your burial or cremation doesn't burden your loved ones?
Yeah.
Or did you want to cover anything else as well, sir?
Mostly just the final expenses.
Got it. Yeah, that's why most families send this in. Now, before we jump into the eligibility, do you have anything in place right now, like life insurance or anything that's going to help pay for that?
No, a little savings, but not much.
And I mean, did you have $10,000, $15,000 set aside, or
Maybe a couple grand, $2,000, something like that.
Just like an emergency saving.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it sounds like it would make sense to go over this eligibility for you. Before we start, I'm just going to text you over my credentials, okay?
Yeah.
And I'll text them my card, the credibility sheet that shows all the different carriers. And I explain what I'm going to do today right after they've verified me. Hey, so what I'm looking at is the client suitability sheet. We're just going to spend a minute or so on yourself, financial situation, make sure that you're looking at enough coverage and that it's comfortable for you. And then we'll just spend another minute or two on your health and background. And that's going to allow me to punch into my system and see which one's going to give you the best rate. Okay?
Cool.
And then I just go right into it. If they agree to that and you ask them burial, cremation, dig into the why, and set the structure, I mean, if you get to the numbers from there, I'd say you're able to close like 60 to 70% of the time.
Yeah. And I think like everything you're doing is relieving sales pressure. Like, hey, this is what most people do. Hey, are you like most people I talk to and want this? And like what you said too, something along the lines of like, oh, this actually would make sense to proceed. I'm always telling people like, look, I'm going to ask some questions, and if it makes sense, we'll go ahead and do an application. And if it makes no sense, you don't need it, and you have $1 million of insurance already, and your kids are multimillionaires, like we're not going to do anything. I'm not going to twist your arm. I'm just going to go through this and see if it makes sense. We'll apply for something. If it don't make sense, you don't need it. I'll get out of your hair. You know,
because it's such a regulated industry. Like, you can't one screw them up over. It's like pretty plain and simple. It's like the coverage amount you're looking at. This is the premium. This is what we're covering.
Yeah.
And I think if you just keep it direct, confident, and simple, you're going to be able to help anyone.
The last thing I wanted to ask you about is like one thing we've been super focused on lately, and I think it's good. Like early on in the business, our goal was like, how do we grow issue paid numbers, and like how do you sell more and like get the top end revenue up, which is the right way to do business. You figure out the top end, and then you figure out like, okay, like how do you become more profitable then? So like you said, like being more efficient with leads, being more scalable, not cutting out travel expenses, that sort of stuff. And then the other lever is like, how do you increase persistency to keep more business on the books? And if the more you increase persistency, the more profitable your business is going to be. Like I've noticed last year, our persistency as the agency overall went from at 12 months, it was like 72%. And now it's like close to, it's like 78, 79%. Like it's almost at 80% overall, which has been a big jump. I think at 6 months, it's like 92%.
Yeah.
So it's gone way up. I know your persistency's gone way up too as a personal producer. What are a few things that you do to make sure that people are not only going to buy the business, but also keep it, so you don't have the chargebacks and the debt and that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So I mean, with the carriers we have, like, we truly put the client in the best spot possible with the best carrier, to where if someone even does call them, like, they get a chance to try and sell them, they can sell them. Like, our client's not going to cancel the policy.
Yeah.
Because they got the cheapest and best policy for them. And I think truly serving them. And then a lot of people, when they sell someone, they sell it based off approval, or they're just like a one and done. But you have to let the client know, like, you're gonna be there for their family, like, on their worst time.
Yeah.
When they pass away and their beneficiaries, their kids are looking for the checks, scrambling how to get the money. So I let the clients know, like, they write down all my information. I send them a picture of my card, and we have CRM drips to where, not only do we ask for referrals, but it's letting them know as well, like, hey, you've been approved, this is the plan. And then in 2 weeks again, it automatically texts them like, hey, did you get everything in the mail? Did you have any questions?
Yeah.
And most of the time, everyone's happy. Like, we explain everything cutthroat clear on the phone. And then when they get it in the mail, they see their policy, it's exactly what they wanted. They'll thank you when they get, like, thank you so much for helping me and my family. Like, can I help my daughter?
Yeah.
And I think, like,
I think your point about making sure they actually buy, right?
Yeah.
Like, I was on a recruiting call last night. It was like 10 o'clock last night. This guy called, I answered, and he was like, well, do you guys pay people on issue or on draft? And I'm like, well, we could pay people on issue, but I pay people on draft. And he's like, well, I don't know about that, man. I've been in the industry. And I was like, well, if that's the sticking point for you, I don't want your business anyways. And he's like, well, what do you mean? Because this guy's like, I've been getting recruited by a bunch of people. I'm like, cool, sounds good. Like, I don't want your business if you're worried about that. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, dude, when you go to the grocery store, you get all the stuff and then get the total and then take the groceries home and tell Walmart, I'll be back next Tuesday to pay for it. No. I'm like, right. They make you buy it when you're there, right? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, do the same thing with your clients. Make them actually buy the policies. Because like you and I, and he's been in the industry, I'm like, you and I both know well, like the ones that you say like, oh, well, yeah, let's just see if we can get you approved. And if you still want it in a month from now, you can pay for it. Like that person's canceling anyway.
Yeah.
And then you're just setting yourself up to be on, a rat race all the time trying to catch up with your chargebacks. And sometimes you have to post date them, but after 1 month, like sometimes your social security clients, you have to have them draft on the 3rd. That's fine. I get it. Like sometimes their money really is gone. But like you want to make sure that it's drafting when the money's actually going to be there and it's a real sale instead of, doing all this post dating stuff. And at the beginning, he was like, so convinced it was important. I'm like, dude, you don't want this anyways because it may be cute for you and you can stay in business, but you'll hire a few people, they'll do the same thing, they'll quit and they'll roll you dead. Yeah. And he was like, wow, I didn't think about that way. So I think to your point, that's one of the big shifts we've made is at first people were mad and then now people are happy because they're like, oh, I'm not riding this roller coaster where I'm constantly chasing chargebacks and where my new agents are quitting and rolling me debt up all the time.
And it's a coincidence. Like,
it's helped persistency a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say you get your monthly agency report. I get mine. It's like I'm pretty sure almost everyone is like above 92% now every single month.
For 6 months, everyone's
whether
way
it's
up.
Final expense, mortgage protection, IUL.
Yeah.
Like when you're truly serving the client and you're putting your agents in the best spot, like there's no reason for the client to cancel. Like if they didn't want that policy in the first place, they have to give sensitive information to get it.
Right.
Like I'm not giving my social out over the phone or routing an account number.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if someone's willing to do that, like they trust you. So don't break that trust with the client and let them know that you're there for them.
In our business, dude, there's so much money to be made if you do it the right way. You don't have to cut corners. And sometimes people do. I'm like, there's no reason to do that. Like, there's no reason to do anything in the gray. Like you can be black and white and make a ton of money doing this business the right way. And the people that can't do it the right way and want to play in the gray are the ones that don't make it long term. But like this is a career for me and for you. We don't want to play in the gray. We want to be very black and white on how we operate our businesses, right?
Nah, dude, I told my, like I knew whenever I saw the money, like I'm never gonna be. I'm
not messing this up.
Even like, dude, no matter how much a check you sign me to, like I could never go back to another job.
Yeah.
Like to where another man tells me what to do, what time to be there, when to do it. There's no point. And like again, like now that I've seen like how much money really is in this industry, like I can never go back to $20, $50 an hour, $100 an hour. Like that's impossible.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it really is a blessing what we got.
Last thing, go over real quick is now that you've started, making more money. Like, do you look at money any differently than you did when you were new? Like, what do you want to do with it? Like, where do you put it? And because I think a lot of people start making a little bit of money and they want to, and like, I don't want to like trash anybody, online people, but like a lot of people make a little bit of money and like they feel like they need to look the part so bad. Whereas like I've met some people with some money and like you can tell when people are making, when they have money, like they don't have to. And like, if you want to buy the cars and the watches and the belts, like, dude, I like nice stuff too. But like, if you're doing it just to prove a point, like, it doesn't get you anything long term, you know? So is that something like you've been tempted with, have done some? Like, how do you view money now? And then, you know, what are you doing to like build your wealth long term?
Yeah. So, yeah, I definitely look at money a lot differently now.
Yeah.
I would say like I'm kind of like desensitized to it.
Yeah. It's a good way to put it.
It's a truthful because like, again, like I never really was much of a designer guy. Like I like nice things, like you said, dress nice. Like when I was in Florida buying these are like my first like designer shoes. I bought like some Dior shoes and Burberry shoes.
Yeah.
And dude, when I bought them, like I didn't think twice swiping my card. It was like $2,500 or whatever. And like just being able to do that, and the guys were like, "What the hell? Like you just dropped that much on shoes?" I was like, what are you tripping for? It's like 2 policies.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like
great.
one example of it to where I don't do that on a weekly often basis. So
That's how I explain everything to people. How many times have I explained something in policies too?
dude, so many times. Dude, you want this? Like that's just an extra policy
Yeah,
a week, an
one
extra
policy a week.
month.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, and holding on to the money, it's like generational wealth. When you have money just sitting in the bank, like it does you no good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So getting into real estate, putting that money to where it can actually make you money, that's opened up my eyes huge. And now that I'm making more and more money, it's like, all right, how can I put more money into it and keep going? Like you told me, you should have a goal, man. Like you should shoot for 30 properties before 30.
Yeah.
And like I truly think I can do it before then with this
I think so
vehicle,
too.
you know?
Yeah.
And then like you said, the watches, the cars, like all that stuff's gonna come. Like it's just a matter of time. And like again, both of our credit scores are good. We both make a good income.
Yeah.
Or if we were to go to any car dealership, like I guarantee you, we can both walk out with a Lambo, a Ferrari, a Rolls Royce. But like we don't need to.
Right.
You know, you can show people a better life without having, I guess, like to push it down their throat necessarily or like keeping up with the Jones. But when you're doing,
and I don't want to put 2 kids in a Rolls Royce, bro. That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
But it's really opened up my eyes, man. Like, not only in the aspects of just like business-wise, but growth-wise for the future.
Yeah.
You know, like money really is like what do they say? Money can't buy happiness, but like, dude, it can sure as hell get you there quicker. You know.
And it buys you, like, for me, it always buys you some peace of mind, and it gives you freedom.
Yeah.
Which is important.
Because that's the highest reason, like the divorce rates in the U.S. or you see people arguing or complaining. It's like most of the time it's money.
Yeah.
Like so, if you find a way to make a great amount of money and you can share to others, dude, it's amazing.
Yeah. There ain't no reason to be broke,
Yeah.
especially when you got this
There
business.
really isn't. It's like the saying, like you never seen a crackhead go without crack, you know.
Yeah, you don't get out hustled by a crackhead.
Yeah, exactly. And once you get a deposit from that first commission check, it's like crack. You
Yeah.
don't want it to stop.
Yep. No doubt, man. That's great. Well,
Don't do crack.
before we get too far off the rails, I appreciate your time, dude. If people want to follow you or find you somewhere, what's your Instagram or social media where they could connect with you at?
Yeah, you can give me at my Instagram _M and Nasser or FFL the Blueprint, and my personal cell phone number is 859-916-3710. Shoot me a message, text me, give me a call, and we'll get in touch.
Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for being here.
Appreciate you.